House of the Dragon Season 1 Episode 3 is called Second of His Name, referring to the 2-year-old Prince Aegon, the eldest child of King Viserys and Alicent Hightower. Obviously, Aegon is not king yet. Viserys is still alive, but we'll get back to why he's being proclaimed that later. At the beginning of the episode, we're down in the Stepstones with the crab feeder again living up to his name. This time we see him at night. In the background we can see Valyrian ships with the giant seahorse sigil being burned. It's a gorgeous scene. The ships falling apart, the smoke, the fire, the sparks hanging in the air all create this admittedly brutal but gorgeous sense of chaos. It looks like the war is not going well. What's different to episode 2? This time it's Daemon Targaryen, who arrives on Caraxes to try and stop the crab feeder. As he lands, Caraxes steps on one of the poor unfortunates that the crab feeder has nailed to the ground, and the crab feeder's army scatters and retreats into the caves, firing arrows at Daemon, some of which hit him, but not in a way that's too serious. I like how this sequence suggests the strong bond between dragon and rider. For me, it also makes good on Daemon's character. If the mass arrest and the harsh punishment in episode 1 suggested a cruel character like Joffrey Baratheon, this shows that Daemon is actually a warrior too, and there's good reason that the in-universe characters see him as a threat. But like in episode 2, the Stepstones is just a framing device and we'll only return there at the end of the episode. We jump to King's Landing, where Viserys and his court are preparing for a 3-day hunting trip in the Kingswood. The Stepstones, the crab feeder, they're a topic of conversation being pushed by Tywin Lannister. Viserys dismisses it and him with a sense of annoyance. Otto Hightower agrees with his king. Daemon and Corlys have got their own problems and they can deal with them. Tywin responds that hiding in the caves, which we saw, is an effective military strategy, one that's harming Westerosi interests. Again, Otto and Viserys seem to be sticking their head in the sand, ignoring what's actually important. Otto isn't the only member of House Hightower that's present. Otto's big brother is also there. His agenda is to see that baby Aegon eventually ends up on the throne. When they're out of the king's earshot, Otto's big brother reminds him that this is his duty. This is his service to the house. Otto and Daemon are again younger brothers living in the shadow of their elders, despite any achievements they might have. Rhaenyra is in the Godswood listening to a fat singer called Sam sing about Nymeria and her 10,000 ships. Alicent, who's extremely pregnant, finds her and tells her the time has come to leave for the hunting trip. After a bad-tempered back and forth, Rhaenyra asks, "Is this the king's command?" To which Alicent confirms that yes, it is the king's command, but she feels it doesn't have to be this way. The gentle understanding that the two had reached in the previous episode has degenerated into a relationship based on antagonism. And a similar antagonism exists between Rhaenyra and Viserys. Rhaenyra is the heir, she has duties, she's failing to meet these duties. She doesn't want to be reminded of this. Viserys points out that she wouldn't need to be reminded if she attended to them. But Rhaenyra seems to be in a full stroppy teenager phase, happy to be the heir, wanting to be queen one day, but not living up to her responsibilities. It would be interesting to know what kind of responsibilities exactly does she have. When the royal family arrive at the hunting camp, there's a warm reception. This is when, at the top of his voice, the head of House Hightower calls the young Prince Aegon the second of his name on his second name day. Rhaenyra doesn't seem to hear this. Viserys obviously hears this and chooses to ignore it for some reason. Again, sticking his head in the sand, choosing to ignore an obvious slight. He's proclaimed Rhaenyra as his heir. He's made his lords swear to that, and he tolerates someone else suggesting that Rhaenyra is gonna be supplanted with his new son. Rhaenyra slips away and joins the party of the high and mighty who come on the hunting trip in the Kingswood. She meets Jason Lannister, Tywin's twin brother. Jason is very much checking her out. There's a lot of people on this hunting trip, not just the great men of Westeros, but also their wives. The wives are talking about how the king must clear out the triarchy, the crab feeder essentially, from the Stepstones. If the wives are saying it, surely the husbands are saying it too. We also meet Larys Strong, the youngest son of the Master of Laws Lionel Strong, who can't take part in the hunting because of his deformed foot. Outside the tent, Rhaenyra and Jason Lannister continue talking to each other. Has, he asks, she ever been to Castle Casterly Rock. He would build a dragon pit for her, for a queen or a lady wife. His agenda is obvious here. Rhaenyra runs back to her father and tells her she's not a prize to be hawked around the great houses. Viserys reveals that he's not unhappy about her talking to Jason Lannister. It's time for her to get married. It's her tradition, it's her duty. Otto Hightower comes over to calm things down. The hunt is on, he says. They found a white hart, a royal symbol from pre-Targaryen times. Rhaenyra jumps on her horse and gallops out of the camp. We'll come back to her later. Jason Lannister continues his charm offensive. He gives Viserys a long spear. The king takes it with hands which are covered in these big black gloves. Considering how his little fingers looked in episode 2, this makes you wonder if those fingers still exist. Jason formally asks the king for Rhaenyra's hand in marriage and explains it will be no loss in station for her if Prince Aegon was to be named heir. Viserys gets angry. Assuming that Rhaenyra is going to be displaced by Aegon is tantamount to rebellion, and all the lords of the kingdom would do well to remember that. Viserys, who's always been angry, is also becoming increasingly drunk. He talks to Otto Hightower, who encourages him to marry Rhaenyra to Prince Aegon. The next guy to give him advice is Lord Strong. As in episode 2, the Master of Laws suggests a match with the House of Velaryon, this time between Rhaenyra and Corlys's eldest son. Viserys is clearly getting more and more stressed. He even admits he's suffocated by politicking, angry enough that he anticipates that Lord Strong is going to suggest his own eldest son, Harwin. The next morning, the big hunt concludes. The White Hart is physically restrained so that Viserys can deal the finishing blow. Jason Lannister is there to offer his spear. The somewhat hungover Viserys gets the job done, having to ask for advice from the hunters and getting it wrong first time. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra spent the night in the woods with Criston Cole, who rode after her when she left the camp following the argument with her father. Cole knows how to make Rhaenyra smile and laugh. She confides in him her feelings of powerlessness. He confides in her that she has given him everything he has. By nightfall, the pair are sitting around a fire and still talking. "Let's go back," says Criston Cole. Rhaenyra is still brooding on the growing assumption that she's going to be displaced for Aegon. "Will the realm ever accept me?" she says. "They'll have no choice," Cole replies. As they speak, the horses are spooked and a boar attacks them, which Cole and Rhaenyra kill between them. The next morning, they return to camp, dragging the boar behind them. Larys and Harwin Strong are watching as the dishevelled Rhaenyra rides in. Harwin in particular smiling like he already knows her, and this is the kind of behaviour that he expects from her. So the hunt's over and everyone returns to King's Landing. Once back there, the manoeuvring around the succession continues. Otto's latest angle is to work on influencing his daughter to influence Viserys. He's the future of the realm. Let's end 15 years of uncertainty. A queen would assail the laws of gods and men. It's up to Alicent, Otto says, to guide Viserys towards reason. The Hightowers are making their play. Rhaenyra's sense of paranoia about this, actually a justified sense of paranoia, is increasing. She accuses her father of wanting to replace her, to let the great lords of Westeros feast on her bones. Another beautiful piece of dialogue in a show that's got many, many beautiful pieces of dialogue. And fair enough. Otto's big brother proclaimed Aegon as second of his name on his hunt, and Viserys did nothing to deny that. Rhaenyra's got good reason to be worried here. Viserys swears on his mother's memory he's not going to supplant her. If he could do this in private, why didn't he do it in public during the hunt? Viserys' answer is just to kind of give up. She can choose the person she marries. He just wants her to be happy. We see another scene between Viserys and Alicent. The 2 fingers on his left hand are gone, just black pockmarked stumps. Whatever disease he has wasn't solved by the maggots, and I guess this is going to be spreading as the series goes on. Now that the hunt is over, and despite apparently still having an epic hangover, Viserys is finally willing to do something about the Stepstones. He has a letter from one of the Velaryons saying that the ward down at the south of the Narrow Sea is being lost. He decides to send them some aid. We're back towards the end of the episode, and as the pattern seems to be, back down to the Stepstones. Corlys reveals to the War Council they only have a couple of weeks of supplies left. Corlys's son is annoyed. Corlys's brother is annoyed. The regular soldiers are even annoyed. As Daemon Targaryen walks up to join them, everyone stares at him with a mixture of fear and disgust. It's time for a battle. Daemon baits the crab feeder out of the caves by pretending to surrender. The enemy soldiers advance slowly, but it's a trap. They're not intending on honouring the truce, but let's be honest, neither are Daemon and the Velaryons. Here again we see that Daemon Targaryen is a great warrior. At the beginning of the episode we saw him fighting on Caraxes, but here he fights on foot. In the chaos of the battle, he ends the crab feeder and presumably the war. So that's episode 3. Viserys is a drunk, extremely stressed by the pressures of kingship. He's also the only person that seems to want Rhaenyra to be queen. Well, maybe Rhaenyra wants to be queen, but she doesn't particularly want to do the work that's involved with it. And we also learned that Daemon Targaryen, while possessing an epic mouth, is actually a great warrior as well. Thanks for watching.